All right, Mr. Rich, it's great to have you to sit down with you to talk about virtual real estate and um, the growing trend and the metaverse industry. So, without further ado, I'm going to start with the first question. Okay, and um, do you believe that virtual real estate is going to become a valuable asset in the metaverse industry?
Yeah, I think the term virtual real estate has so many different variations. So I'm gonna touch on what we're working on at Superworld when I refer to virtual real estate. What we've built at Superworld is a virtual real estate platform that covers planet Earth. So when I talk about virtual real estate, what I'm talking about is the fact that we've divided the surface of the Earth into 64 billion virtual geospatial plots covering Earth. Each one of those is a digital asset. It covers zero point zero 0.01, zero point zero 0.01 longitude, latitude.
Yeah.
And the point of it is as an owner of that uh, virtual plot of real estate, you're a stakeholder in that location. So you can
Wow.
activate
Wow.
monetization from, yeah, a
Interesting.
lot of different things that you can do there. And so again, in that definition and how we're building it at Superworld, I think it's going to be a very, very important part of how an individual or a business can really leverage these technologies to enhance, their real life, their business, as well as how we can collectively use that type of mechanism of virtual real estate to actually improve the world in many ways. So I think it's going to be powerfully transformative in how we're building Superworld.
Well, great. Okay, so Mr. Rich, the idea of buying a virtual land basically sounds like it is coming from a science fiction story. Okay, so um, what does this tell you about the history of the emergence of the internet itself?
The what of the internet? Can you repeat that part?
The emergence of the internet. What does it tell you about the emergence of the internet? Is there a connection between between these two events? A lot of people would probably would think that buying a virtual plot of land is
Mm-hmm.
like a fantasy, like it's coming from a science fiction story. So, and then
Mm-hmm.
you kind of see the disbelief probably. Okay, so and then I choose to believe that there is a connection between these pessimism and then the history of the internet, how the internet emerged. So what
Mm.
does this tell you about the emergence of the internet? How do you
The
connect
origin.
both? The
Okay. Yeah. How does it connect to the internet and how the internet kind of evolved? Potentially is I think where you're going with that question. I think that the way that we've imagined virtual real estate and the way that we're building it in Superworld is we want our super citizens, those that own virtual real estate, to be able to make an impact by their activities and the things that they're building. And by being able to have a way of becoming a stakeholder in specific locations in Superworld, and by owning part of Superworld, again, it enables us to build a decentralized virtual world that can be
yeah,
owned by our community, our super citizens. And then, more so, each one of these plots of virtual real estate correspond to a real world location. And the beauty of that is, we all have this connection to places in the world,
yeah,
regardless of what business we're in, what we do in our personal lives. We love places in the world,
yeah,
whether we live there, whether
yeah,
we want to go on vacation
yeah,
there, whether we have a business there.
yeah,
And that's the beauty of it, is you can become a stakeholder in places. And back to your question about the internet, if you think of even, domain names as an analogy
Yeah,
that's
sure.
often thrown around, and I don't think it's a perfect analogy, but again, that's an analogy that people think of, which is, how do I, stake a claim to a name or something that I, appreciate or brand, things that maybe I am building and relate that to an address on the internet.
Yeah,
Now, like I said, it's not a perfect analogy, but if we're building a virtual world that is built on top of the real world, and you could stake a claim and become a stakeholder in locations in that virtual world that are important to you, places you grow up, places you have a business, places that you have some connection to, that analogy to the internet has some connection. So
yeah, sure.
I think it's an interesting way of thinking about it. But I think as you think of geospatial computing and the opportunities that are going to arise from that, I think the beauty of the way that we're building this allows us to kind of use our
Yeah,
imagination
sure.
and have this limitless potential to use this technology, immersive tech, Web3, and
Yeah,
AI.
sure.
I kind of think of it as kind of a geospatial media asset is the way I think about that.
Yeah, sure. You were quoted by the New York Times when it ran a story on virtual land boom. So I would like to ask you, was it truly a boom?
Well, it definitely had a very strong moment in time where you have the fact that people started realizing that there are, digital assets like NFTs that allow you to own, digital space or,
Yeah,
art
yeah.
or
NFTs. Asking if it was truly a boom at the time.
yeah. I think that there were a number of different factors that resulted in, many people understanding the technology of NFTs
Yeah,
in 2021. So understanding that you could, be able to have an authenticated
yeah,
ownership
of
of
it.
a digital item, whether that was
Yeah,
art or virtual real estate or
yeah,
you name it. Anything could be created into an NFT. Alongside, Facebook changed its name to Meta, as well as even in society. I think as we were just kind of coming out of COVID, people understood the opportunity to be able to own digital space
yeah.
and
Just
how that could be very important. Now, I would tell you that I think the thing that's really interesting as it relates to Superworld is, during that time, there was definitely a boom.
yeah,
But what we continue to see at Superworld is that when people understand what we're building in terms of virtual real estate in real world locations and the opportunity to own
yeah.
and become a stakeholder in places on Earth, we still see the same user behavior that we've
Interesting.
seen actually from the very beginning. And we've been in the virtual real estate space since 2017. So again, Superworld launched in 2017,
Yeah,
and that is that our average paying user buys about 10 to 15 plots of virtual real estate in
real
the first
estate.
month and refers about 6 paying customers to us. And
Wow.
that really kind of represents that, any customer that comes to Superworld and understands exactly what we're focused on and how virtual real estate and Superworld can have an impact on your ability to create or to be able to have exposure to real world locations, and to be able to discover and to become a stakeholder, as I mentioned. That impact and opportunity is what people are very excited about. And we're excited about building for for our super citizens, for those that own virtual real estate in Superworld. So,
Yeah.
I think this is going to continue, and it's going to get more and more exciting as we get and welcome more super citizens into Superworld virtual real estate.
Great. Okay, so can you tell us about the founding of Superworld itself?
Yeah, sure. So I co-founded Superworld with my co-founder Max Woon.
Okay.
Max and I spent time previously working on the YouTube platform. That's how we met. And previous to Superworld, I started a company called Rogue Initiative Studios, which is a film, television, gaming, and virtual reality studio in Hollywood. My co-founder had produced Call of Duty, Modern Warfare series, and Ghosts. My production partner there is Michael Bay, the action director. And basically, at Rogue Initiative Studios, we built feature film, television, gaming, virtual reality. And what I learned from that is, you can build anything in an engine, at Unity Engine, Unreal Engine. These gaming engines are very powerful. And what happened was about 6 years ago, Pokemon Go came out, right? It
Pokemon
became
Go,
this
yeah.
huge hit. They are doing amazing work at Niantic. And, I got together with my co-founder Max and we thought, you know what? How could we empower anyone to build anything anywhere? If we can't build the next Pokemon Go, what if we could build a world where anyone could build anything in real world
On top of it,
locations? And
yeah.
yeah, exactly. How could we empower anyone to build a virtual world so they could
Awesome.
create, discover, and monetize anything anywhere? And that was the vision of Superworld.
Interesting. Okay, so one question, Mr. Rich. I'd like to know, is virtual real estate a part of the mass adoption conversation?
For
I'm going to take the
what?
question again. Is virtual real
Yeah.
estate
Yeah.
a part of the mass adoption conversation?
Uh-huh. Well, you have to give me more specific. You
So what I'm
might have
trying
to
to say
ask the
is, okay,
question
so
again.
now,
Mass adoption conversation for
yeah,
what?
sure. We now see we're trying to explore the intersection between blockchain technology, virtual reality, and what have you. It's just like you have a slew of complementing technologies, okay, at force at work here. So, and then you look at virtual real estate, it has an intersection with blockchain technology, like just like you'd imagine, and then you'd apply. So the question I'm asking is virtual real estate an important part of the mass adoption conversation, the mass adoption of blockchain technology?
Sure. I mean, as we've built virtual real estate in Superworld, I think what we're seeing is that much of the mainstream audience is very interested in these technologies, whether it's VR, AR, whether they're talking about blockchain or NFTs in particular, whether they're interested in generative AI, whether they're interested in the metaverse or DeFi. All of these different technologies I think are interesting to the mainstream. But what we've found is, in terms of our understanding of our user behavior, is, a lot of our customers are still very interested in these technologies, but are a little bit confused about how to get into them, or even kind of completely what they mean. So what's the difference between AR and VR? How can
Yeah,
I get into DeFi? How can I get into other crypto? Or how can I build something using
yeah,
generative AI? I
yeah,
think we're all very interested in these technologies.
yeah,
But what I found is, when they come to Superworld, they might not completely understand all of those things just yet, but they do understand where they live.
yeah, sure,
They understand where they have a business. They
yeah,
understand, where they spend time on their vacation, or places in the world
yeah,
that they love.
yeah,
And they
great,
come to Superworld and they buy those locations.
yes,
And now,
interesting,
guess what? They want to build, NFTs, or create an NFT for their
yeah,
business, or get into Web3, or use
yeah, yeah,
generative AI, create, AR, VR content. And so, back to your question, I think ultimately virtual real estate in Superworld is this gateway. It's a gateway for the mainstream user to
Yeah.
get into these
No,
technologies and
interesting.
adopt Web3 or immersive tech or generative AI. And that's what's
Yeah.
really exciting to me about it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so how does Superworld compare to other players in the metaverse industry?
Well, there's a lot of different virtual worlds out there with Superworld, and I in particular, I'm on the board of the OMA 3, the Open Metaverse Alliance, and OMA 3 is an alliance of many of the virtual worlds out there, and the whole point is to enable interoperability between virtual worlds and to do cover the earth,
Yeah,
right?
great.
And
Yeah,
so we're very strong partners just innately with all of the other virtual worlds, the other
yeah,
platforms out there. And I just described, how users come to Superworld and utilize Superworld as this gateway.
yeah,
Well, one of the things that they might want to do when they come to Superworld is to go use other products, to use DeFi, to use AR, VR, immersive tech, use other technologies. And so we want to make it really easy for our customers, our super citizens, to interact with other technologies and other virtual worlds as well. So we find ourselves other technology providers in the space. So we're
yeah,
very excited about that, and we've partnered with several already. We actually launched a big partnership with Sports Illustrated
yeah. Right.
about a month ago that I can talk more about. But just as
Great.
an example,
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so what piece of advice do you have for entrepreneurs who would like to follow in your footsteps? Like right now, it's the bear market, and
you,
it takes
you,
a lot
you
of courage and determination to, to stick to your gun. Like you've been really consistent with your posts on LinkedIn, and I see that as an example, an example of having the determination and courage to to weather the storm. So, what piece of advice do you have for entrepreneurs who want to follow in your footsteps?
you kind of broke up. I couldn't hear your question.
Okay, I got you. So the question is, what piece of advice do you have for entrepreneurs who want to follow in your footsteps?
Well, I think it's really important to find something that you are very passionate about, that you care deep, and something that
Yeah,
is often personal, or something that you have some experience with,
yeah,
because if you can solve a problem that you innately understand and that you have a strong conviction for, I think that makes it a lot easier because you can just do what you love to do, and you're just naturally just driven to solve it. I think you also need to prepare yourself. So make sure
yeah, sure.
learn what you need to learn to go after it. But definitely start and go after it. Take the first step. It's always about kind of taking that first step and then keep
Yeah,
going forward. It's definitely a journey. You have to enjoy the journey though.
yeah, great. Okay, so Mr. Rich, we finally come to the end of the interview. I'd like to really, to especially thank you for your time, and then to really say that you're doing a great job.
Thank you.